Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that affects all of us at some point. Tipping. Whether you're grabbing a coffee, eating out, or maybe ordering in, you get the bill and have to decide what to tip. And for some, whether to tip at all. I'm sure many of you have noticed we're being asked this question a lot more often, in places where we normally wouldn't expect it. In fact, according to a 2023 survey conducted by Pew Research, which I'll include a link for down below, around 7 in 10 US adults, that's 72%, say tipping is expected in more places today than it was just 5 years ago. But first, let's start with the obvious. A sit-down meal in a restaurant with full service. This is your classic tipping scenario. I'd imagine a very large percentage of Americans will choose to tip in this situation. Let's say it's you and one other person. You'd probably expect a bill somewhere in the range of $30 to $50, depending on where it's at. Let's just take the average, 40 bucks, and at 15%, that's a $6 tip. But here's the problem. With a percentage-based tip, let's say we're in the exact same scenario. Two people eating out. The only thing we're going to change is the prices of the restaurant. Let's say double. Well, the bill comes out to $80 for the same meal. Okay, well 15% of that is 12 bucks. But the server didn't do twice as much work. It's the same food, same number of guests. The restaurant is just more expensive. I think a lot of people would chalk it up to the cost of going to a nice restaurant and still tip 15%, or in this case, 12 bucks. In fact, I'll take it a step further and say if you left a $6 tip on that $80 bill, meaning a 7.5% tip, whoever you're eating with might even think you were being cheap. But why? All things being equal, that server from the first restaurant got a $6 tip and everyone was happy. But at the second restaurant, suddenly $6 for the same amount of work is cheap. Well, it's just expected. In fact, that same Pew survey found that 81% always tip for a restaurant meal, a higher percentage than those who tip for food delivery, Starbucks, Lyft, and other services. Let's take a look at a more recent addition to the tipping landscape. I'm sure plenty of you have seen these by now in places you never really expected to. I actually saw this at a local Chinese restaurant down the road from me. In one of those Panda Express style setups where you pick the food as you go down the line and they scoop it into the box. The cashier punched in the amount due, swiveled the screen, and here's what I see. A screen asking what percent I want to tip. For a purchase I've made God knows how many times, and for the first time, I'm being asked to start tipping. And I'll be honest, I actually did think about it. That's the thing, when you ask people something, especially something they haven't been asked before, it can be kind of stressful. It catches you off guard. I mean, I was thinking, what did the person in front of me do? What's the next person going to do? Ultimately, I didn't leave a tip. I didn't expect to give one, and so maybe I was already biased against it to some degree. But the more I thought about it, the more it kind of bugged me. I never really liked tipping culture. Just like I don't like that tax isn't included on the display price, or the way they end prices in 0.99. At the end of the day, it's manipulation. Businesses are purposely obfuscating the prices to make them seem cheaper than they really are. With inflation seemingly constantly on the rise and prices higher than ever before, it just makes me not want to use services anymore. In fact, just the other day, it was Saturday actually, I was feeling lazy. I wanted a burger, but I didn't want to go get it. Well, between the minimum extra charges they tack on for drivers in California, the service fees, higher prices on the Uber menu compared to the actual store menu, and of course, a tip, it would have literally cost me $20 in fees for a $20 meal to have food delivered in 30 minutes from a restaurant 6 minutes away. Now, to be clear, I'm not advocating against tipping in places where we already work. I understand that it's part of a server's livelihood, and it's not their fault everything has gotten so expensive. What I am advocating against is the spread of tipping culture. If it wasn't something I tipped for 5 years ago, I don't want to start tipping for it now. And if that means they have to raise prices, well, they can try. But they might just find out what McDonald's did recently. Customers have a tipping point, pun intended, and eventually they're gonna push back. $3 for a hash brown is kinda crazy. In the meantime though, I've actually started cooking a lot more at home. which honestly is for the best. It's cheaper and it's healthier. What do you all think about the recent proliferation of tipping culture? What place has really shocked you by asking for a tip? But anyway, thanks for taking the time to watch this. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, consider liking the video and subscribing. And hey, maybe go watch another video too. Bye!